Sometime during the first half of 2020, it looks like the Institute has reduced their work experience requirement from 48 to 36 months. Logistically, this makes a ton of sense. There are 3 exams. Usually people do 1 a year, and if you pass each one, that means you'll finish them in 36 months. But from the perspective of being considered a very prestigious designation, this makes no sense at all. Why would you reduce the work experience requirement by 25%? I'm in no way an insider. I don't know anyone who works for the Institute, and I don't know what they were thinking when considering this decision. But from my perspective, they must have sat down and thought about what exactly embodies a CFA charter holder and what types of things they want that person to have accomplished in their life before they can carry the marks, use the letters as CFA. As far as I know, for as long as the CFA charter's been around, which is 60 or 70 years, you have to have 4 years of finance-related or investing-related work experience before you can be a charter holder. Someone could pass all 3 exams, but if they're working in engineering, they have to use the fact that they passed the exams to hopefully break into the finance field and work there for 4 years before they're a charter holder. Now it's 3. Trust me, I'm no work experience snob. I tell people all the time that I think good decision-making doesn't require experience, but also I tell them that experience helps. Maybe I'm just a salty charter holder who wishes that I could have potentially gotten it done a little bit sooner, because I did have to wait like 6 months after passing the 3rd exam before I could use the letters. But honestly, I just don't see what could motivate the decision to make it easier to become a CFA charter holder. This news probably came out before the news about the new computer-based testing, or CBT, system that the Institute has gone to. And there was a lot of backlash from that. That these exams are going to be easier to pass now, namely because they're only 75% as long as they used to be. But for the CFA Institute to hold these rigorous standards for like 60 years or however long it's been around, and then in 1 year, 2020, say, hey, you can take the exams more often, the exams are going to be shorter, which makes them a little bit easier in my opinion, and you don't have to have as much work experience. All those 3 things combined can only water down the charter. There's no lens that you can look at these 3 events through and say, you know, with all those considered, yeah, the CFA is probably more valuable now. Either I want to get it more, or employers are going to value it more, or existing charter holders are going to be looked at in a more positive light. None of those, you couldn't draw any of those conclusions from these 3 changes they made in 2020. But like I said, logistically, it does make more sense. When I first learned about the charter, when I was in college and I first considered it, I was like, why are there 3 exams that take 3 years, but you have to have 4 years of work experience? It's like how you buy hot dogs in a pack of 10, but they sell buns in a pack of 8, or maybe it's the other way around. That just doesn't make any sense logistically. But the more and more you learn about the CFA charter and you understand the significance that it has, and once you really get an understanding of the difficulty of the exams and the amount of information that can be learned through this program and how prestigious it is in the field, then you really come to appreciate everything that it has. You really appreciate the long nights of studying for derivative valuations questions, which are, in my opinion, the hardest questions in the content. You really appreciate the grind it takes to become a charter holder. You really appreciate what you had to sacrifice to get there. It seems like several of the things that make the CFA so great are starting to get watered down, diminished, made easier. And this is just another example of that. Just went from 48 to 36 months, and they really didn't even make an announcement on this. I never saw it. Only reason I know about this is because someone asked my opinion on it in a comment to one of my other videos, and I was like, what are you talking about? Got on their website, yeah, right away. Found that you only need 36 months of required work experience now. Man, I was just surprised to see all these changes happening in 2020. If you think about the result that this change brings, it's only that people who had already passed the exams can now become a charter holder a little bit quicker. So it's certainly not the worst thing in the world. I don't think this is worse than them shortening the exams under the new CBT model. That one I really dislike. This change to me just seems more like you're throwing a little bit of tradition out the window. Of course, I think that anyone who's passed the 3 exams should at some point be able to become a CFA charter holder. Honestly, if the program in the past had never had a work experience requirement, I wouldn't have any issue with that either. If it's just past 3 exams and you're a CFA charter holder, then that would be cool with me. So I don't think there needs to be a work experience requirement. It does make sense. I mean, you certainly learn more working in finance for 4 years than you do learn in passing the 3 exams, but it's an academic program. And if you complete the academic requirements, I think it would make sense that you now hold that charter. So I'm not angry about the lost 12 months of experience that someone who may now call themselves a CFA charter holder otherwise would have had before they could have called themselves a CFA charter holder. I really don't think in practice those 12 months are going to make much of a difference to charter holders out there. So maybe the Institute just drew that conclusion that I mentioned and said, hey, it really doesn't make too much of a difference, and what we're more concerned about is the exams. They've already passed all 3 exams. Why not just shorten the requirement to be more logistical like I talked about earlier? That's probably where they were coming from with it. I just would have voted no if I was in that boardroom, because we have the most prestigious charter in the whole finance industry, in my opinion, in maybe the whole world, and we're starting to water it down now. You know, where does it stop? Let me know in the comments down below if I was wrong about this. If there was some kind of big announcement when they reduced the required work experience period of time, then I could have just missed that. I just don't think that they let anyone know. I think that they really sneakily made this change and plugged it in somewhere on the website that's not super easily found anyway, in an attempt to avoid people like myself getting angry who did have to wait 6 months after passing the third exam because they hadn't yet met the 48 months of required work experience. That's 6 months where I could have potentially drawn some value by having the letters after my name that I didn't get, and now someone else in the same situation as me will have. The more that I sit here and talk about this, my opinion is just growing more and more in the opposite direction. Like, I wish they would have made it harder. I wish they would add a 4th exam, or I wish that they would make it a 5-year required time period of investing related work experience to become a charter holder, because that's only going to make people more and more look at this and go, wow, that's getting even tougher to get. Like, the CFA is becoming even more of what I already appreciate about it. Or employers will look at it and go, wow, a CFA charter holder is even more of a prestigious a thing to be. It'll make candidates more attracted to it. It'll make employers more attracted to it. I think it could help out the finance industry as a whole. The CFA Institute's stated mission, I believe, is to improve the standards of the global investing community. So where exactly within their mission statement does this change lie? How does reducing the amount of experience someone needs to become a charter holder improve the global standards? I can't see it. At least this one doesn't seem like a money grab to me, like the more frequent testing under the CBT model does. That is 100% a money grab. It's just them bumping up their profits by 20% in a given year, which is going to look great for their shareholders, but really bad for the designation as a whole, especially for current charter holders. And to use the term again, easier, that I mentioned early on in the video, there's some debate on if the adjustments they made with the CBT model make it easier to get the exam. It certainly doesn't make it harder, right? Being able to take the test more often and having fewer questions that you have to answer on that test are not going to make it harder. So it's either going to be exactly equally difficult or a little bit easier. And my argument that I made was that part of the difficulty of the exam is knowing that you can't do it again for 12 months. If you can take another exam in 3 to 4 months, yeah, it's just going to be easier because there's going to be less stress on you to have to perform on exam day. So it makes it easier. But that's another point. When you look at this change, does it make it easier to become a CFA charter holder? There's only one answer to that, and it's yes. I don't think anyone on the earth with the relevant background information would say, no, this doesn't make it easier to be a charter holder. There's literally just less of a pretty straightforward requirement, right? Just holding your job is not all that difficult. There are a lot of jobs out there that actually will fulfill the requirement for investment-related work experience to the CFA Institute. They're not picky, which is a good thing. But anyway, that makes it very straightforward. You just hold a job, a pretty regular finance job for 4 years. All they're doing is reducing it. So yes, their only conclusion to that change is that it makes it easier to become a CFA charter holder. And when any institution or organization makes it easier to obtain a certain goal, it reduces the value of that goal. Think about like weight loss, how much more valuable it is to lose 100 pounds than 60 pounds, right? Just any goal. Reducing the requirements to reach that goal make it a little bit less valuable when you achieve it. So certainly this change makes it easier to become a charter holder, and yes, personally, I feel like that reduces the value of it a little bit. Please let me know what you all think. I would love to hear some other perspectives. Maybe I'm way off base. Maybe I didn't see some pertinent information about why they had to make this change, but if everyone else agrees with me too, let me know that, because I'd like to just be like, yeah, see, I'm right on this. Everyone else is kind of in the same boat. Even for people still taking the exams, I don't imagine that the Institute lowering the difficulty level of getting to that charter that they're already working on is that all that fulfilling. Maybe it is if you're really unsure about being able to pass, but if you're confident in your chances, then no, you're not going to be a fan of this. So I'm just curious to see what other people think too. And if you've gotten to this point in the video, it means that you watched the whole thing. And I very much appreciate that, because watch time, I believe, is the most important factor in YouTube's algorithm and pushing these videos out to other folks, which helps me out. It also helps if you could like this video and subscribe to the channel. Just like the watch time, I appreciate those things very much. If you wanted to support me on Patreon, you can check out the link in the description of this video down below to my Patreon page. As always, thanks for watching.